Good afternoon and welcome. Could you please now remove your caps and stand for our national anthem? Miss Megan Wagner will lead us in the Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous flight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You may be seated. Well, welcome again, everyone, to the University of Minnesota St. Paul campus and the North Star Ballroom. We call it the main campus, and we enjoy having the commencement here, of course, because it gives you all an opportunity. It gives you an opportunity to recognize where your students have been spending the last few years of their lives here on the St. Paul campus and get a perspective of what we have to offer here. And plus, I was just looking out, and I realized that nothing says commencement like a disco ball hanging from the ceiling. So I am Brian Boer. I'm Dean of the College of Food, Agricultural, and Natural Resource Sciences. I won't ask you all to repeat that. You wouldn't probably get it right anyway. And this is a celebratory day for our students who've now completed either master's or PhDs and the long-lasting commitment they've given from their lives to spend their time here. And I'm honored to be here to recognize them today. Let's give them a round of applause just right off the bat. We also have some very special guests with us today to honor the students, and I'd like to introduce a few of them. University of Minnesota Regent Peggy Lucas has joined us today. Thank you, Regent Lucas. Vice Provost and Dean Danita Brown Young has joined us today. And Dean for Research and Graduate Programs, Gregory Como, is also here from CFANS. Of course, today we recognize over 100 students from the College of Food, Agricultural, and Natural Resource Sciences who have completed or will soon complete their requirements for the master's or doctoral degree. How many of you have a final oral yet to take? Oh, only a couple. That's great. So most of you are nearly completed. Commencement, of course, is one of the university's most joyous and important occasions of the year. And it's a symbol of the accomplishments you, the graduates, have had, and as you move on to the world beyond the University of Minnesota. Most of you will recognize you didn't accomplish this on your own. You have your parents, spouses, friends, family, and others here to join you today. And I want you to recognize that they have, through this time, unwaveringly supported your work. And if you think about your paths from probably maybe a junior or elementary school graduation into junior high, from your graduation from high school to your graduation as an undergrad, and now to your graduation as a master's student or PhD student, they have followed you on a long path and been by your side the entire time. So before we move forward, I do want to also ask you, the graduates, to recognize and thank your families by applauding them. There are a few others here, of course, to thank, and at times for you, the students. They've been your harshest critics. They've often been your greatest supporters when things have gotten difficult. And you've stayed up oftentimes late at night studying for the qualifying exams, racking your nerves and slaving to make the changes on your thesis or dissertation that you were looking to have that Nobel Prize winning work recognized. At least you did, unless you were like me at one point when I was working my dissertation roughly 25 or so years ago. And I walked in my major advisor's office and he said, "The only good dissertation, Brian, is a done dissertation." And that was the end of that. So that bond you formed with your advisor, your mentors, is something you'll take with you the rest of your life, like it or not. But you'll have that bond and relationship to bear and stand with as you go on to your career. They take great pride, I can assure you, in your accomplishments and your successes in the future. And so I do want to recognize the faculty that are here today, your advisors, your mentors. Faculty are also seated over to the side here, for their dedication and diligence in mentoring you, guiding you in your pathways. And I ask you again to thank them and give those advisors and mentors a hand. This is not my time to make lengthy remarks, of course, but I couldn't help but think about, just briefly, this last week in the events in St. Paul, of course, and I'm curious how many of the students marched in the March for Science? Raise your hands. So a fair number were there supporting the work that we do here. And it actually, those events caused me to reflect on the value of science. And I remember, as it was actually in the newspaper, there was a sign a person was holding on to, and it just said, "Science is," period, with a punctuation mark, period. Science is, period. And it sort of made me think about, if that's so obvious, if it's that obvious, why is the reality that when you go out into the world, you'll find people questioning science, of course, asking, and you, with your fresh PhDs, then asking, how could they question science? If it's science, period, why is society being challenged so much by science? And I think part of that is the answer, and I often use this phrasing, but the University of Minnesota is a land-grant university. And as part of that mission, in addition to our science education and the work you've done, a big part of that mission, and I quote from the Morrill Act, which was part of the founding of this campus, and by the way, the St. Paul campus was originally, the work being done here was originally on the Minneapolis campus. Like any good campus that's engaged with farming and agriculture, we sold it at a profit to the other campus and moved over here. But about that time, and actually prior to the Morrill Act, though, which then stated, in order to promote, and this is always a piece that people think we're all about agriculture and science and engineering, which is the way most people quote it, it actually says, in order to promote the liberal and practical education of various classes in the several pursuits and professions of life. And I always talk about that as the promotion of it. It's not the provision of education, it's the promotion of education. That one of your roles, as you're talking about science and going out into your chosen fields and endeavors, is to not lose sight of we are about promoting education for the population. And I think a lot of that misunderstanding or reticence about science and the progress science is making today in various areas is due to that part about how do we promote the understanding and value of that education. And we look to you now to carry on that mission going forward. And I'll give you an example of this. And one of my great pleasures as dean of a college like this, we're a very diverse college. We go from soil science, as I often say, to nutrition and health, and that entire spectrum in between, and including forest resources, conservation biology, wildlife biology. We cover a broad scope of activities. So this time of year, and our departments and faculty often host poster days for graduate students. So they bring their graduate students. There was one here last week with food science nutrition. I went to one with the conservation biology students. And you get to walk around and visit with students about the work they're doing. And so, in fact, I'll just use the food science example here. I was walking through here I think it was Tuesday night or so, and visiting with students and their work, and they're just beaming about their work, of course. and talking about the nuclear peptide provision and impacts on brown adipose tissue they'd measured with hybronuclear whatever. And they were earnest and serious and dedicated and excited. And I looked them in the face and said, you know I'm an economist, right? And you could see the face fall because they knew I didn't understand anything they said, obviously. But what I asked each one of them, I said, so what does this mean? So it was wonderful research, bright people. I said, what does it mean? And actually, there was a case of looking at how brown adipose tissue and its effect on health and welfare, and could you start to affect that from being white adipose, which is bad for you? And a very cogent explanation. I said, that's great work. And too often you think about me as being that society in that case, and marveling at the work that you're doing and the work that you've done in your research labs and your work on with faculty. And then they can't quite grasp how is it that you can create new varieties of crops? How is it that you can create resistant varieties of insects or ways to combat pests with biocontrols and other insects? How does that work when you're talking about scientific terms? So I simply leave you with that idea that while your research, your science, your education is critical, the critical piece for you going forward out into society that is messy with beliefs and values and all kinds of differences in cultures, how do you take that science and communicate it to others? Because for us to fulfill our mission, back to that moral act premise, to fulfill that mission requires that you take that science and promote it and educate about it and help to move the world forward. And so we look to all of you to engage in that process that's not going to be clean and simple and easy, even though the science may often, and the science isn't that way, it's often a wavering path. But that thing that you think is so obvious and apparent and science period is impacting people's lives, and they want to have a say and engagement in that aspect. So I ask you all to consider that and carry that land-grant mission forward. With that, that was one of the shortest talks I've ever given. I assure you, people here can attest to that. But I'm sure you're more interested in hearing from a fellow student. And today our student speaker is Jonathan Pluger. And Dr. Jonathan Pluger began his scientific journey at St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota, and University College Cork in Cork, Ireland, where he earned a BA in Biological Sciences in 2004. Dr. Pluger completed a clinical doctoral program at Northwestern College of Chiropractic, earning a Doctor of Chiropractic in 2007. You remember that long path I talked about? So, he knows the long path I talked about. Okay. He spent the next 4 years in private practice in Forest Lake, Minnesota. I was near there, lived near there recently. He was accepted in a nutritional doctoral program in 2012 as a National Institutes of Health Fellow in Cancer Nutrition, working under the guidance of Dr. Mindy Kurzer. Dr. Pluger's work was selected for presentation by the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology at the Experimental Biology Research Conference in 2016 and was awarded the Best Thematic Research Poster. Dr. Pluger played an instrumental role in developing an institutional research grant funded by Healthy Foods, Healthy Lives, an initiative here at the University of Minnesota that focuses on improving health throughout all of people's lives. With that, please join me in welcoming Dr. Pluger.
So before I begin, I also want to just acknowledge that while Mindy Kurzer was the first advisor that I had, she was very gracious in allowing me that through my very circuitous route in my journey to this point, and allowing me after my first year in finding some different interests with Dr. Douglas Moshek and transitioning into his lab where I currently reside and am completing my work. So thank you very much for the introduction, and welcome to all of you, friends, family, distinguished guests, distinguished faculty, and of course, a very special thanks and welcome to my colleagues, the classmates and graduates of the class of 2017. I'm very honored and humbled to be with you today and delivering the student commencement speech. And unlike many graduate students, as it was given in the introduction, I took a very non-traditional route in arriving to this point. So while contemplating how I could provide some benefit or some value to all of you, the audience, through today's speech, I thought about and reflected back on my past and was drawn towards the first day in my program. Now, I should preface that As a 30-something returning back to school after an extended stay away, I was already somewhat self-conscious in how I would be perceived by my fellow classmates, and this was further compounded by the fact that my first day and my first class was an undergraduate class that I had to take in fulfillment of meeting the requirements for our department. So when a student came in, frantic and telling his friends that he was very distraught because he had forgotten his notes at home, I thought, what a great opportunity. I can show my value and demonstrate how I'm on an equal playing field with these younger students. I'll provide some help to them and kind of show them that I'm one of them. So I ran up to our offices that were just upstairs, printed him off a set of notes and returned them to him, which he was very thankful and appreciative to. But he subsequently turned around to his friends and said, "This nice man just printed off all of these notes for me." So clearly my plan backfired, and feeling rather dejected, I sat down in preparation for the class to begin when another student came in and sat down next to me, introduced himself, said he was a junior in the program, and wanted to know what year I was. So when I told him that I didn't have any year in particular, I was a graduate student, he responded, and I quote, "Wow, don't you feel old being in here?" Well, I was feeling pretty old at that point, but it didn't stop me from continuing on. And so, of course, when I thought about what the theme of the speech should be today, it seemed rather appropriate that it would be a characteristic that young people often attribute to us more well-traveled populations, and that characteristic being wisdom. So, excuse me. I, like most of you, have thought a lot about what the future of science holds and what it holds for me in particular. And while at the surface it may seem rather gloomy, I can assure you that it is my opinion that that this is a very ripe opportunity for we as scientists to set forth and create a future that we want for ourselves and our profession and for future generations. Now, I believe that because of wisdom, and the wisdom that I have incurred in my path and my journey thus far. And so today, I would like to impart some of that wisdom on all of you. You see, much like early science and philosophy, my previous profession, chiropractic, has also overcome many obstacles in its young tenure. And as with our scientific ancestors, many of my chiropractic predecessors also faced persecution by law, and in some instances have even been jailed under false charges. Yet, through these challenges and through these obstacles, and because of our ancestors' determinations, those professions have all thrived and survived. Throughout chiropractic struggle, an oath was formed. And when I was a young chiropractic student, that oath was shared with me, and I felt it very appropriate to adapt and share with you today. It says, "Time always has and always will perpetuate those methods which better serve mankind. Science is no exception to that rule. Our illustrious predecessors placed this scientific trust in our keeping to keep it pure and not sullied or defamed. It is now passed unsustained onto us to protect as they also have done. And they have passed on, and so shall we. However, humanity needed then what has now been given to us, and the world needs now what is given to you. Out there in those open spaces are multitudes seeking what you possess. The burdens are heavy, the responsibilities are many, and the obligations are providential. But the satisfaction of traveling the populated highways and byways, relieving suffering, prolonging lives, and adding millions of years to lives of millions of suffering people will bring forth satisfactions and glories with greater blessings than you could ever imagine." Now, I cannot think of a more appropriate message to impart upon these graduates today and to build off of this hope and this inspiration that will carry us forward through these presumed trying times. To me, one of the most unique and exciting features about science and what sets us apart from any other profession in the world
is that we are built upon a foundation of utilizing the skills and the tools that we have and in seeking an unbiased approach to the discovery of absolute truth. In doing so, we have had to develop a thick skin, often shirking our naysayers. However, we can no longer remain idle, sitting by waiting for time to pass, only remaining steadfast in our methods. Instead, we must use our collective voice to overcome these obstacles, securing a better future for ourselves and those that will follow. However, in applying those methods, I wish to share some other wisdom with you. A late mentor of mine once discussed with me and shared a famous quote as we were discussing how I could help to alleviate some of perhaps the negative preconceptions that people may have had about chiropractic and inviting them into our profession, and in particular, inviting them into my practice. He said, "For it is better to light one candle than to curse the darkness." Today, again like our predecessors, this sentiment holds true. As each one of you moves on in your future endeavors, you will undoubtedly face numerous opportunities to overcome adversities. You may even face times when the trials, tribulations, and burdens cause you to question your own validity. And while it will seem very much more easy to point the finger, deride your antagonist, and to cast the blame outwards, I can assure you that those methods will seem and prove as fruitful as cursing the sky for not providing your garden rain when you have a full watering can right by your side. No, instead, we must act as our predecessors, remaining steadfast in our message, but delivering our truth through positivity. So today, my challenge to all of you graduates is this. As you move forward in your professional lives, step outside the confines of the lab, the field, and the offices. Find ways to engage your communities. Lead programs that create and influence scientific policy, and educate and induce excitement about what it is that we do. If we do these things and we remain ironclad, we will reap the rewards of cultivating our own gardens, bathing in the fruits of our labor, and providing a fertile soil and vibrant seeds for the next generations. The wisdom that came before us has led us to this point, but it is the actions that we will take that will dictate the wisdom we pass on. The Lorax taught us on less, but I also prefer to focus on another sentiment, which is that you never know how far-reaching the things you may think, say, or do today influence the lives of millions tomorrow. I have always done my best to reflect this sentiment in my own life, and I wish it for all of you as well today as you graduate. Congratulations, class of 2017. I wish you all the success and joy in the world and accumulated wisdom as you venture out into this next phase of your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm amazed that somebody as young as you could come up with those words. Just trying to make you feel better after your your remarks there, because I resemble that first remark about age. And now I'd like to welcome, and it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Shefali Mehta. Shefali Mehta is an agricultural and environmental economist who has spent more than 10 years helping organizations develop and implement strategies tailored to address their complex issues holistically. She received her PhD in agricultural and applied economics and an MS in statistics from the University of Minnesota, her Master of Philosophy in economics from Cambridge University, and a BA in economics from New York University. Dr. Mehta founded and currently runs Open Rivers Consulting Associates, where she supports her clients in tackling some of the toughest problems by finding economic and science-based solutions. Throughout her career, Dr. Mehta has focused on collaborating across disciplines and industries to identify innovative and pragmatic solutions to complex issues. We're very honored she is here today, and also quite proud that she's an alum of our Department of Applied Economics. Shefali, welcome.
welcome graduates, loved ones, faculty, and distinguished guests. When I was asked to speak today, I was honored. But first, I was confused. And it's because I stood exactly where you are all standing 9 years ago, and I wondered why the University of Minnesota was too cheap to get an actual celebrity as a keynote speaker. So, for those of you gathered here, and for my younger self, it's true, I'm obviously not a celebrity, far from it. But I didn't want you to miss out on that celebrity element, so I wanted to bring that into this momentous occasion. So, while I might not be one myself, I've been in the vicinity many times with memorable incidences like running into Leonardo DiCaprio in a street fair and stepping on his foot, seeing one of the Monty Python actors as I ran through O'Hare on a connection and almost knocking him over, accidentally stalking Elizabeth Hurley during her filming of Mickey Blue Eyes, that was a big accident, taking David Cross out with a pizza box, and running over Cheryl Teagues at the LaGuardia baggage claim. She's very nimble and jumped away in time, but the point is, I'm not a celebrity, but I do run into them, and and run into them again. So on that note, it's probably best and safest for us to move away from the celebrity topic and onward. So in all seriousness, though, I'm truly honored to be here on this special occasion. Like you, as Brian has mentioned, I graduated from here, and I liked it so much I came back last year and graduated again from the College of Liberal Arts. So I'm not sure who's more excited. I'm guessing at one point you want me to leave. So, but it's been, what can I say about CFANS that Brian hasn't already shared? It was opened in 1888. It was a college of ag at that time. It boasts a rich history of pioneers in all of the fields that you represent. And even though it was founded as a college of ag, I find it really interesting it's evolved to this massive breadth that's represented here. I do find it interesting that people get so lazy saying the college's name out loud, though, now, that they never get past, I'm part of the college food, ag, and, some other things. So sorry for your natural resources. It's too bad we're this lazy. So anyway, the institution is fairly awesome, and part of that reason is you, so the graduates who are here. This graduating class spans all of the 12 programs in CFANS. You cover an incredible background and set of experiences. You come from numerous countries. You're all over the U.S. It's pretty amazing, as I read through some of your backgrounds, how far and wide you come from and what you've brought here. And we are here today because you accomplished something very significant. You may or may not feel the magnitude of what you just accomplished, so I'm going to take a moment to remind you. The drive and passion that is needed to get a graduate degree, to follow through, to get to the point that you are in right now, it is a testament to your persistence, passion, and abilities. I want you to remember that. So despite all the hype and the sexy reputation that CFANS has, as one alum to our very soon-to-be other alums, I know the true reality behind graduate studies at the St. Paul campus. Your family and friends might believe you just completed something akin to, the Big Bang Theory show minus a little less sun because you're in Minnesota and not California. But I know the truth. Long hours alone, looking forward to the walk home past those large bronze cows, occasionally maybe seeing a live one or two mixed in. Days and days in windowless offices, interacting only with your books, obsessing weirdly about your advisors and other faculty. And you know that's true. Wondering how such nerdy people came to wield such power and control over your life. No offense to our faculty, you know it's a bit true, though. So I intimately remember those thoughts, and good news, if I'm any example, you will too a decade later. The point is you persisted through all of that, through those thoughts and hopefully more joyous ones. You found solace and meaning in your craft. You have already done so much. Many of you have given so broadly to this world and in so many ways. You leave here to continue that, perhaps with a renewed look, perhaps with a renewed trust, perhaps and hopefully affirmation of your path forward. So yes, this world can sometimes look murky and defeating, and as many of you already know, it can be at times. But that means one thing. We desperately need more folks like you. We need your energy, your skills, your drive. We need the personal assets that you brought here and the skills that you honed. Those will continue to allow you to contribute to the betterment of the world in ways that very few others can. So it is a matter of continually unlocking your potential throughout life. How do you do that? So I'm completely certain that you already know because you're here, but I am going to remind you of a few things that I'd like you to maybe remind yourselves of. So first of all, your people. I see so many family members, friends, and others, loved ones, supporters gathered here. They supported you. They looked past your more interesting and colorful moments. They are currently breathing a sigh of relief that it's over and you are done. So let's take a moment again to thank them for being here and for being there. So during your time here, you added to those relationships that you brought in. And you found new colleagues. These connections will stay with you as you move forward. They will continue to enrich your lives as you will enrich theirs. So 9 years later, I'm proud to call these people friends, colleagues, advisors, and a husband, just the one. And I have worked with them, turned to them at times of questioning, both professional and personal. Some relationships didn't even take off from me until I left the University of Minnesota. However, as I look back, these continue to inspire me to push further, to give more, and not to give up. So the second area that you have within you is your intrinsics. I began this speech by addressing your persistence, your passion, and your abilities. Those innate qualities make you unique. And as you further cultivate them, you will find greater and greater ways to connect to society. Enrich our knowledge and find your own personal reward. So you demonstrate those intrinsics that you hold, that only you know, to us through the choices you make. Those choices are the outward expression of the things that we cannot see. So each of us, we make millions of choices in our lives. Yet our society overly focuses on the elements that we do not choose. While we may be judged on those attributes for which we had no choice, for example, where we were born, who we were when we were born, whether we're tall or short, the various levels of melanin in our skin, whether our noses are large enough to make Elmo jealous. The point is, I'm here to reinforce that it is our conscious choices that matter the most. The choices we make define us and our experience here. The choices that you will continue to make will continue to define your path forward. And those choices are how you bring your innate abilities to fruition. So thirdly, an area that's extremely important is your faith. Now, I use this term quite broadly, but in a very specific meaning. You are here because you had faith in something greater. We heard about science and what it means, but you had faith in the ability for something beyond what you could see, to do something beyond yourself. You pushed through the doldrums of the graduate experience. You reached deep inside yourself. You found yourself, and you pushed forward because you believed in that something greater. It is that faith that I speak of. It's the ability to believe in something greater and persist. And finally, one of the greatest sources of strength and direction that you have at your disposal is your compassion and empathy. So this is a personal belief and observation that has grown for me since I left here. I thank this institution for allowing me to nurture that belief, to test it, and the subsequent years gave me a chance to test it further in many, many different contexts. I see the best in myself when I am directed by my compassion and empathy. I see the best in others when they're doing likewise. We have an extraordinary ability to care for each other, to care for others, to care for all organisms, to care for this world around us. And it's not finite. It keeps renewing and gushing forth. It underlies the sentiment attributed to Albert Einstein. The value of a man should be seen in what he gives and in not what he is able to receive. I pay special attention to this because society has a way of dismissing this, of making us believe that these attributes are weak, not worth noting, not worth caring. In our society, the strong are often perceived to be those who care the least, those willing to destroy to achieve personal gain. Again and again, across 6 continents and 38 countries, I have found this notion to be categorically false. True strength lies in caring deeply about something and supporting it, about looking outside yourself and going forth with an open heart. However, I know it's not easy. You know it's not easy. Doing the right thing is often much, much, much harder than doing the wrong one or doing the easy one. However, I firmly believe that your ability to see compassion and empathy will bring the best out in you regardless of where you go or how the road is, to help make the right decisions as you move forth. So together, these 4 areas, your people, your intrinsics, your faith, and your compassion and empathy, especially your compassion and empathy, will keep you renewed and help you tap into your full potential. So after an acceptable number of cliches and tangents, I would like to congratulate you and get out of your way so you can celebrate your hard-won achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, Shefali, for those kind and compassionate words. We appreciate it very much. I didn't know if you'd get there because in the early going, I was listening and we were cheap, lazy, sexy was kind of okay, and then we were nerdy. But thank you for the presentation. It was probably a pretty good descriptor of us overall. But thank you so much. And also our development office will be calling you soon for a contribution. Thank you. So with that, though, our next step, which is a step you've all been waiting for and looking forward to, we now come to the part where we begin the presentation of degrees for candidates. Professor Brian Stephenson from the Department of Plant Pathology will present the candidates for master's degrees.
Thank you very much, Brian. So we'll now recognize the candidates for master's degrees, and I'd like to request that the master's students come forward. Marta Ferdes Vila. Joey Andrew Milkey. Abigail Elizabeth Noy. Justin Martin Seward. Brianna J. Arndt. Elliot George Charette. Curtis Allen Tice. Yeah. Tianjing Zhang. Kayla Ray Altendorf. Garrett Carl Heineck. Alexandria R. Olaf. Matthew Ames Ott. Melissa J. Miller. Grace Sword. An Kim Tran. Yan Cao. Ton Ding. Xin Yu Tao. Abby Holman. Alexandra Kuchel. Shin Lo. Arun Liu. Melody Marquez. Amy Mathewitz. Shardul Amit Patil. Ning Yin. Andrew Joseph Zumbush. Edward Charles Koloski V. Holly Ray Meyer. Stephanie R. Patton. Jennifer Marie Shack. Marissa Brianne Thalen. Sydney Bainline. Leah Catherine Kleinschrodt. Teresa Carol Menke. Hannah Parazinski. Kayla Michael Pittman. Allison Elizabeth Ritter. Carrie A. Wolf. Dean Boer, this concludes our presentation of candidates for the master's degree.
Next, Professor Pam Ismail from the Department of Food Science and Nutrition has the pleasure of presenting those students who have earned the Doctor of Philosophy degree, one of the highest degrees granted by the University of Minnesota. Pam?
Please, students, step forward. J.U. Wang. Adan Silverio. Yera Rudy. Lindsay Novak. Yuna Lee. Q Sun Lee. Akinori Kitsuki. Eric Hansen. Daisy Fajardo Gonzalez. Juan Camilo Chaparro. Camilo Bojerquez Peñuela. Samandangla Au. Emily Jean Conley. Peyton Helena Jean Akes. Jared Goplin. Regan Lee Nolan. Joshua Sleeper. Snobber Ahmed. Cristiano Eduardo Rodriguez Hayes. Petra Kransfelder. Trisha Leaf. Justin Carlson. Rolando Jose Gonzalez Seda. Alicia Maserati. Jason Daniel Clark. Anne Elizabeth Sawyer. Stephanie Harris. Riley Pelton. William James Severud. Majori Kezia Silisiani. Jennifer Erickson. Urvashi Molasi. Jonathan Pfluger. Arwa Asad Zahid. Austin Joel Case. Bradley Gordon. Dean Burr, this concludes the presentation of candidates for the doctorate degree.
Let's give them all one more round of applause, please, for the degrees. Regent Lucas, these are the candidates that are presented to you for the degrees named. Would you please join me at the podium?
Will all the graduates please rise? Upon the recommendation of the faculty and by the authority of the regents, I now confer upon you the degrees for which you have qualified. Congratulations. Let's recognize your achievements.
thank you, Regent Lucas, and again, congratulations to all our graduates. You can see now, I think, why this is such a joyous event. I don't know during that procession whether it was the students that had the brighter faces, the advisors that had the bright faces, or the families that had bright faces. But I did learn one thing, and this wasn't prepared, you'll know that. We need more cowbell. Thank you. Nice cue. Okay, great. Well, that concludes our ceremony. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. And audience, I'll ask you to please remain seated until the faculty and the students have left the auditorium. And I would also like to thank our wonderful vocalist, Megan Wagner, for her talents with us today. And our quartet musicians from the School of Music. That includes C.J. Point on cello, Umali Garcia and Samuel Wong on violins, and Patrick Gallagher on viola. And of course, we offer all of our graduates the best wishes for your futures. And as many of the speakers said today, we look to you to carry forward that message of science and education and the value that has in all of our lives. So then with that, we will all conclude. I want to thank you for attending, and we will sing the Hail Minnesota, after which I'll invite the students and audience to reception in the Terrace Cafe area downstairs on one floor down. Thank you very much again for joining us.
Minnesota, hail to thee, our college dear. Thy light shall ever be a beacon bright and clear. Thy sons and daughters true will proclaim thee near and far. They will guard thy fame and adore thy name. Thou shalt be their northern star.
Clear movement.